Welcome. Check It Out with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Cynthia Kaschub, who is the principal engineer at Intel, and Tina Tang, who is the senior director of product marketing at SAP. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks, Jessica.
I'm excited to talk about women in big data with you because I know you started an organization, womeninbigdata.org, and it's phenomenal, really. So I want to give you a chance to share the story. Why was there an organ? Why did you feel there's a need for it? How did you build it out? And what challenges are you facing?
Yeah. So it initially started because within Intel, we were having a hard time finding women that had these technical big data types of skills. Then that was the impetus for us to reach out to our contacts within industry at other organizations. And that's kind of triggered the inception lunch, if you will, where all of the women that are now the co-founders actually from different organizations like IBM, Cloudera, SAP, variety of others, which I'm not going to try to do an exhaustive list, but because I won't win there. But all of us realized that this was a common theme and that the issues kind of fell into main areas, and we viewed those as areas and opportunities where we could actually impact the community at large.
Right. So what is the mission of the organization then?
The mission is to champion the success of women in big data fields.
Okay. And what is the goal then? What do you mean champion? Why is I guess it's kind of vague. How do we define it? Yes.
How do we champion? So championing means that we support them in their technical skills. So we run technical workshops that are free of charge. And then we also support them in their professional development, such as negotiation skills, interviewing skills, resume building, and things like that.
Okay. Leadership skills.
Leadership skills.
You want to be at the table. You want to be on the boardroom.
How do you get a seat at the table?
Okay.
How do you present yourself? Right. So we cover all of those things, and we provide the forum to do that in the form of networking events. Sometimes we'll be part of a technology conference, and we'll have sessions that are very well attended. Yeah. And we have speakers and that are inspiring, and generally, the result is we get this huge influx of membership registrations after these events.
So you have over 10,000 members worldwide, right? It's doing well.
It is doing well. It's going really well, better than we could have ever projected. Okay. And I think because we really hit a nerve in the global community of women in tech.
Okay. Maybe you can share with us some of the stats that you told me about the inequality in pay, in equity. These are some of the metrics that will, I guess, give us some numbers to kind of measure progress in our society, if you will.
So the pay inequality is pretty well known. It's about 80% or 80 cents to every dollar that men make. Our next goal is equity equality. The amount of equity that women hold compared to men is even more dismal because equity is really what determines wealth and influence. So there was an extensive study done by an organization called CARTA, and they found that women hold 47 cents to every dollar that men have in equity.
And we're talking about stock shares that are given out at tech companies.
Exactly, ownership. Yeah.
Okay. And I know at Intel, you guys actually have made some progressive policies in making sure there's pay equity. Is there any of this other kind of policy of equity that she's talking about? Is that being addressed?
I haven't heard of it formally, so I can't really speak to that. But I know that within the Women in Big Data, what we're hoping to do is to address it by initially raising it as an issue, right? So saying this may be something you should be thinking about when you're looking at your next job transition. So when you're looking at your compensation, people tend to just think, well, I'm going to start pushing on my base, as opposed to also thinking about equity and equality in the equity space as well, and knowing that you can push for more ownership there. And then probably moving forward, once we've increased the awareness of just the issue, we can start to work on things like transparency and benchmarking equity packages that women receive at different companies at different levels, with the hope that that becomes the next pay pay equity issue, if you will, right? So everybody talks about pay parity, but I don't think, in fact, I'm pretty confident that that doesn't include total comp, which is what we are talking about, is really looking at the total compensation opportunities that women get when they transition roles.
Let's hear how you grew the organization. Some of the things that you put in place in order to have this grassroots movement
Yeah.
and grow globally.
So right after that inception lunch, everybody kind of kicked into execution mode, where we all got together, tried to figure out what our mission statement is, what are the key attributes that we're going to try to influence in. And those became things like connect, inspire, educate, and to enable leadership. And so all of those areas were kind of how we organized our organization. So we have specific mentoring, training, and awareness, and all of those things, how they're currently set up, enable anybody that's interested. So anybody that joins and is interested and there's not a chapter nearby, it enables them to actually go and grab that material and start a chapter. And I think that's what has really enabled us to grow from the initial 15 members to now over 10,000 worldwide. Right. And so you see that because we enable them to have access to the material to actually just start it where they are, we've seen chapters pop up. There's now 21 chapters across the globe. So representation in all of the domains, really.
It's almost like we gave them permission, and they just, once the gate was open, they just ran out, and they really brought their energy and their passion and their commitment to the topic to it, and that's why it's grown so fast. It's really inspiring to see that.
It is, and I like how you give opportunities for them to step up and take this leadership role. You talk about if they wanted to start something, these are the things that they have to do. You want to share that a little bit about, like, say they have an idea, an event.
So because it's very decentralized, and everyone is more or less autonomous within, the guidelines and the framework. And so if you have an idea, you build a team with the other volunteers to make it happen. So you might have someone help you manage the event logistics. You might have someone help you get the word out on social media, set up the meetup or the invite, and then you'll have maybe an instructor, and then you'll also, more importantly, get a corporate sponsor to fund the catering and the venue and things like that. And a lot of times they'll bring a speaker as well. So we've had a lot of success using that model, and it also coincidentally helps us build our network and has helped us sign corporate sponsors as well as get new members and who are very active, like Netflix and LinkedIn. Andreessen Horowitz was an early supporter, and then of course SAP and Intel and Cloudera and IBM and Oracle.
And it's great because then they have candidates to recruit these sponsors.
Exactly. So now we've actually created a platform for which we can bring the women on site to enable them to not only get training, but also to hear about opportunities, learn about the corporate culture, and actually enable them to be recruiting folks. So kind of making the company real to many candidates and making it accessible.
Okay. I want to ask about challenges. I know it's growing a lot, and there's definitely a demand. But what challenges are you facing?
I'll start out. I'll mention a couple, and I'm sure Tina will have a list of others.
This is a volunteer organization at this
point. It
point.
is definitely, yeah. So there's that element where you have folks that are committed all the time and they're always there, and then you have other folks that are because of their life commitments can't commit as much. So it's making sure that you're able to gauge the level of commitment that people are able to do, and making sure that they have the supportive team for their idea to come to life in spite of their limited commitment time. Additionally, in terms of metrics to evaluate how much we have contributed in terms of getting to better representation for women in big data, is it's really hard for us to know if whether or not people are landing jobs because they actually found them at one of our trainings and or from our website, for example, because our website, womenatbigdata.org, actually has not only all of the verticals that I mentioned before, but also has the job accessible site.
Okay.
So, but there's other issues that we have.
What challenges do you feel?
Well, there's, ongoing discussion about, because right now it is a completely volunteer organization. And then there's a lot of discussion about, well, would we be able to secure more funding support if we became an official nonprofit 501c3? And so there's ongoing discussion about, whether we want to go down that path or not. And then, of course, there's the other discussion about, do we want to become a .com and take our skill set out into the streets and sell our data science expertise.
Kind of along those lines, we could actually solve some other issues such as ageism in the workforce. So there's a lot of extremely talented women that are involved in women in big data that actually suffer from ageism in the Valley. And so doing something where it's a .com or we're an agency, I believe we could resolve some of that issue as well, because you give equal access with solid skill background to many that may not actually be given the opportunity otherwise.
Yeah, and we're actually piloting this program in our East Coast chapter. And they're forming teams of data scientists and working with commercial companies to work on their data science challenges.
Right, excellent. That's very exciting.
It is.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you're able to make time to share, to talk about women in big data, and letting the audience know that there is a huge movement going on, and if they're interested, they just need to go to your website, right?
Yes. Womenindata.org.
Thank you, Cynthia and Tina, for being on the show. Talk about women in big data. Exciting things you're doing, and thank you for doing the work that you do.
Thanks, Jessica, for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Tech It Up with Jessica Lee.